Some people fear being alone, others discover who they really are in silence. This video is not about loneliness, it's about self-sufficiency and the quiet cultivation of inner strength. Being alone is not the same as being incomplete. Solitude can be a classroom for honesty, a rehearsal space for courage, and a sanctuary where identity is refined. Some fold under the need for attention, some fade when validation disappears. And then there are those who become stronger when no one is watching. People who practice resilience like a craft, who learn to comfort themselves, to plan for their own mornings, to collect small rituals that anchor them. Today, we will explore 6 zodiac signs who survive alone not because they are broken or cold, but because their strength arises from within. These signs don't beg for connection. They choose silence to hear themselves better. They don't disappear when the noise stops. They stand on their own. Stay until the end, because the number 1 sign can stand in a crowd and yet remain completely independent. Let's begin. Number 6, Leo, who is their own biggest fan and best companion. Leo survives alone because their greatest applause is internal. Ruled by the sun, Leo's solitary moments are stages where they rehearse courage, polish creativity, and hold court with their private ambitions. Alone, they do not shrink. They expand, replaying victories and inventing new scenes of possibility. Their inner life is performative in the best sense. It is a laboratory for self-encouragement and refinement. Leo's solitude is generous to themselves, a ceremonial tending of identity that feels like warmth rather than withdrawal. Their daily rituals, music, styling, creative practice, are acts of self-care. When admiration fades, Leo consoles themselves with an archive of personal proofs that remind them who they are. In private, they rehearse compassion and craft. They remember compliments not to hoard them, but to reissue them when days feel gray. This practice is practical. A person who can summon their own praise can recover faster from rejection because they carry a bank of small remembrances ready for use. To call Leo a showman is true, but incomplete. Performance for Leo is not vanity as desperation. It is devotion. They attend to their presence the way others attend to their health. When they wake alone, the morning ritual is not a vanity project, but a ritual of alignment. A playlist begins the day. Clothing and posture set an internal tone. Small creative acts, sketching, tinkering, arranging a space, are rites that anchor mood and intention. These habits matter because they create scaffolding for identity that does not topple when an external audience disappears. Conceptually, this is an internalization of encouragement. Instead of needing validation from others to proceed, Leo rehearses to themselves until the internal voice is sufficient. Leo's solitude also includes generosity. In private, they imagine ways to encourage future partners, friends, or projects. They draft compliments. They rehearse apologies. They practice generosity so that when they return to others, they come bearing gifts shaped by solitude. Their private rehearsals are rarely selfish. Instead, solitude serves public warmth later. This is the paradox. Their aloneness fuels their capacity to be radiant with others. There is a shadow, of course. Leo's pride is not invulnerable. When love or respect is injured, the instinct is to retreat, to pause the show and tend the wound in private. This withdrawal is protective, not punitive. Rather than beg for validation, Leo withdraws to regenerate. In this space, they are not defeated. They are composing a comeback. For those who care for Leo, know that their privacy and pain is not rejection. It is a workshop of repair. If you wait with steady patience, the return is often generous, warmer, and more intentional than before. On a practical level, Leo's solitude can be encouraged into health by ritualizing private applause in small ways. Keep a victory list, no matter how minor. Create a personal playlist of songs that feel like triumph. Allow quiet, creative acts without expectation of sharing. These practices shift the attention from needing an audience to practicing presence. For a creator or presenter, Leo's method offers a model. Treat solitary craft as sacred rehearsal. Practice generosity and presence privately, and offer it publicly without hunger. Visually, represent Leo's private life with warm light, close-up gestures of care, and sequences that feel ceremonial. Preparing a simple meal with intention, arranging a desk, rehearsing a short speech in the mirror. These images demonstrate that Leo's solitude is active and luminous. Their inner applause is not performed to avoid others, but to prepare to be fully present with others when the time is right. Finally, consider the moral of Leo's aloneness. Pride need not be a demand. It can be a resource. Learn from them the discipline of giving yourself the encouragement you seek. Leo's example is a reminder that the voice we need most can be trained to be kind and strong. Alone, Leo refines an inner audience that becomes a practical engine for resilience and creativity. In that sense, Leo doesn't just survive alone. They practice thriving in a way others can learn from. Number 5. Scorpio, who thrives in the solitude of their own thoughts. Scorpio thrives in the solitude of their own thoughts because silence is where they excavate truth. They are not comfortable skimming surfaces. They want to know what lies under the current. Alone, Scorpio interrogates motives, traces histories of feeling, and converts raw emotion into coherent narrative. Their privacy is a crucible, not an escape, but a place of refinement. Where others avoid discomfort with distraction, Scorpio sits with it until the edges of pain become legible. This is a capacity of endurance more than bravado. Scorpio's resilience is built by a willingness to feel, name, and contain. In practice, Scorpio's solitude includes ritual investigation, long journaling sessions, night walks that follow empty streets, and private projects that require sustained attention. They often keep private artifacts, letters no one will read, lists of transgressions turned into maps of learning, boxes of objects that carry symbolic weight. These acts are not theatrics, they are tools of inner reconstitution. Solitude for Scorpio becomes a slow, disciplined therapy, where feeling is honed rather than hidden. Their tendency to go deep means they are often less interested in casual company and more interested in a few witnesses who can sit with complexity. There is a special power in Scorpio's method. They can tolerate the corrosive emotions, jealousy, grief, rage, without letting those emotions become the whole of them. Instead, they name the feeling, map its edges, and decide what to keep and what to let go. Through this measured process, Scorpio transforms vulnerability into strategy. They are less likely to seek quick fixes. Instead, they accept the slow timetable of repair. However, solitude is not without hazard. A Scorpio who retreats too long can build walls of secrecy that are difficult to dismantle. Their independence can skew into isolation if there is no trusted witness to interrupt the loop of private analysis. That is why the healthiest Scorpios cultivate at least one relational bridge, a friend or practitioner who can hold them while they practice vulnerability without judgment. This bridge prevents private excavation from collapsing into exile. Scorpio's capacity to transform inner work into creative output is profound. Many artists, researchers, and writers who complete intense solo projects are channeling Scorpio energy. They need privacy to allow their unconscious to speak. Whether the outcome is a piece of writing or a quietly lived moral recalibration, the solitude is productive. It becomes the genesis of renewed boundaries and commitments. Another aspect to appreciate is Scorpio's ceremonial approach to endings. When a chapter closes, an intimate betrayal, a lost friendship, or a career rupture, Scorpio often performs private rites of release, burning a list of grievances, composing a letter they never send, or walking to a river to let water carry the memory away. These private ceremonies convert pain into useful narrative, allowing Scorpio to return to life with something measured and reclaimed. Those who love Scorpios should honor their need for privacy while offering steady presence. A single phrase of acceptance, "I'm here when you want me," is often more effective than 100 attempts to pry. For Scorpio, the presence of a calm, non-demanding witness can be the difference between healing and stuckness. On camera, show Scorpio's inner work with close textures, hands writing in a journal, the slow motion of a hand over a collection of objects, reflective nightscapes. Avoid dramatizing their pain. Instead, render the discipline of their solitude, the steady, unspectacular acts of repair. Scorpio's solitude is not melodramatic, it is methodical. That is the source of their quiet power. Finally, remember Scorpio's gift, transformation. Solitude is where they transmute the raw materials of life into something intentional. If you find yourself resonant with Scorpio, develop practices of witness, one person, one therapist, one ritual, that allow your inner work to be translated into life rather than hidden away. When done well, Scorpio's solitude is an apprenticeship in depth that yields wisdom not merely for themselves, but for anyone willing to learn the art of inner alchemy. Neosatra 4, Sagittarius, who finds freedom in having no one to answer to. Sagittarius finds freedom in having no one to answer to because their essential orientation is toward exploration. Where some seek safety and routine, Sagittarius seeks horizon. Solitude is latitude for the archer, an open map, a wind that invites motion, an unmarked trail. Alone, Sagittarius is at liberty to experiment, try new ideas, and travel inward or outward without negotiated expectation. Their independence is not brittle, it is buoyant. They are curious by temperament and use solitude as a laboratory for ideas. When left to themselves, Sagittarius reads widely, studies different philosophies, and compiles a mental atlas of experience. Their solitude often looks like preparation, planning a trip, crafting an argument, learning a tool that later becomes part of a generous offering. They are less likely to retreat out of fear and more likely to detach because their curiosity takes precedence. This is part of their youthful spirit, an optimism that life will provide new perspectives and that alone time is a means to gather them. Sagittarius's solitude also serves an ethical generosity. They often travel or study not simply for self-satisfaction, but to collect stories and insights they can share. After a period alone, Sagittarians tend to return with gifts, a new recipe, a story that expands others' imagination, a workshop or a lecture. Their independence fuels communal benefit. The archetype of the traveler who returns to tell a tale is classic Sagittarius, solitude as accumulation of material for public good. Yet solitude can be a double-edged sword. Sagittarius sometimes uses movement as avoidance, preferring the stimulation of new landscapes over the work of sustained intimacy. Running becomes easier than staying. When discomfort appears in relationships, the instinct might be to leave and learn rather than to confront and repair. This pattern can be adaptive or maladaptive depending on whether the departure arises from curiosity or avoidance. Growth for Sagittarius often means practicing a different kind of patience, staying present until the interesting edges of a relationship or project appear. That does not mean giving up freedom. It means expanding their curiosity to include the interior geography of the familiar. When they do, their generosity deepens because stories become anchored in real relationships rather than only in travelogues. In terms of habits, a healthy Sagittarius cultivates mini-retreats that are intentionally finite. A week of solitary reading, a weekend of reflection, a month-long project with clear re-entry points. These bounded experiments preserve freedom while building capacity for sustained engagement. The result is a person who can both roam and return, someone who brings back energy rather than drains it. On camera, depict Sagittarius with open roads, books, notebooks, and maps. A montage of departure and return, packing, leaving, then returning and cooking a meal for someone, shows how their solitude translates into communal generosity. Their independence is not an end in itself. It is a resource they convert into stories, invitations, and shared curiosity. Finally, consider the virtue Sagittarius offers: the courage to go and the grace to come back. Their solitude is a reminder that independence need not close a person off. It can prepare them to contribute with enthusiasm. If you are a Sagittarius, practice the small discipline of staying put sometimes. If you love one, celebrate their returns. They bring gifts formed in the generous space of their freedom. Number 3, Capricorn, who is a self-contained empire that needs no allies. Capricorn's empire requires no allies because their life is built on the principle of engineered resilience. This is a sign that tends to treat independence as architecture: plans, scaffolding, schedules, and maintenance routines that allow them to thrive without emergency rescue. Alone, Capricorn is at work, establishing systems, meeting small deadlines, and converting uncertainty into predictable outcomes. Their solitude is industrious, practical, and habitually accountable. Capricorn grew comfortable with solitude as a necessary condition for mastery. While others seek validation from immediate social circles, Capricorn invests in competence. They save for rainy days, study skills that increase their autonomy, and learn trades that make sudden dependence less likely. This is not a cold bargain. It is a form of responsibility toward self and those who may one day count on them. Their independence is oriented toward reliability, an ethic that views solitude as a proving ground for skill, not punishment. When alone, Capricorn organizes. Their day may be measured in blocks, tasks checked off, and progress recorded. This granular attention to outcomes transforms time into achievement. Emotionally, Capricorn practices stoic stewardship. They acknowledge feelings but rarely let them override necessary plans. This capacity can be stabilizing for others. A Capricorn who can weather a crisis calmly often becomes the anchor in turbulent times. Yet this architecture has vulnerabilities. Walls grown for protection can become barriers that prevent closeness. Capricorn may confuse privacy with impermeability, and pride and competence can function as a barrier to tenderness. The challenge is to retain competence while letting the occasional fragility show. When Capricorn learns to admit small uncertainties, their solitude becomes less lonely and more collaborative without ceding agency. Capricorn solitude is also a site of skill accumulation. Many long-term projects that require sustained solitary attention, academic work, entrepreneurship, craft, are natural arenas for Capricorn energy. They can tolerate monotony because they see the arc of long-term payoff. In teams, their capacity to manage solo work is a valuable complement to more social temperaments. They do the steady, unglamorous labor required for lasting success. In close relationships, a Capricorn's way of caring often shows as reliability, turning up, fulfilling promises, managing logistics. These acts are the content of their love language. Recognize that for Capricorn, care is practical and performance-based. To appreciate them is to notice the small, consistent commitments they keep. To ask for emotional reciprocity, it helps to be specific. Phrasing needs as concrete acts helps them respond without feeling exposed. For Capricorn seeking balance, cultivate micro-practices of vulnerability. A daily check-in of one emotionally honest sentence, a small confession of uncertainty to a trusted friend, or a brief creative task that is done for pleasure, not performance. These practices soften walls and make solitude regenerative rather than isolating. Visually, Capricorn solitude reads as order. Well-arranged tools, systematic lists, a tidy workspace, hands at work on a task. These images communicate the dignity of labor and the quiet power of routine. The narrative to tell is not that Capricorns lack feeling, but that they express care through construction and service. A final thought on their archive. Many Capricorns keep private records of promises they made to themselves, an internal ledger of goals and small triumphs. These archives function as sustenance when external applause is scarce. They are a testament to a life built deliberately and modestly. In solitude, Capricorn does not merely survive. They build a life that can stand the test of absence. That is their form of sovereignty. An ordinary, dependable empire that requires no dramatic allies to endure. Number 2, Virgo, who prefers their own company to the chaos of others. Virgo prefers their own company to the chaos of others because solitude is where their mind can return to order. Virgo's interior is a workshop of incremental improvements. Alone, they can hear the small voice that names what needs tending and quietly make repairs. This attention to detail is not perfectionism alone. It is a method for creating reliability. When external life becomes noisy, Virgo's routines, tidy spaces, lists, and measured tasks are the stabilizing counterweight. Alone, Virgo is restorative. They practice micro-habits that compound. A short writing session, a 5-minute cleanup, a focused walk. These modest acts add up to a sense of competence that persists even in the absence of others. Solitude allows them to edit and refine without performance anxiety. Think of a craftsman who prefers an empty workshop to the clamor of a crowd. Virgo's solitude is similarly focused, a place to hone skills and restore order. However, the precision that keeps Virgo grounded can become a harsh internal critic. When solitude becomes an ongoing audit, joy can be strained by relentless evaluation. The remedy is gentle discipline. Schedule no critique minutes, where the inner editor is observed but not obeyed. This practice cultivates rest, without abandoning the ethic of improvement. Virgo also uses solitude to prepare service. They think about how to help others in practical ways, and often return from lone work with concrete offers of assistance. A repaired machine, a curated resource, a plan for a project. Their independence makes them reliable because they have already taken the time to prepare. This is why Virgos are invaluable colleagues and friends. They notice what others miss and quietly fix it. For Virgos seeking to deepen their practice, alternate focus between task-based solitude and restorative solitude. The first is vocational, projects, learning, improvement. The second is nourishing, reading poetry, silence, a bath, or a slow meal. Both are necessary. If a Virgo leans only into task-based solitude, the inner critic can harden. If they balance with restorative practices, solitude becomes replenishing rather than corrective. A practical exercise for Virgos is to create a gentle checklist, items focused on care rather than productivity. Drink water, step outside, write one line of gratitude. This recalibrates the mind toward kindness and breaks cycles of self-flagellation. Over time, these small adjustments transform solitude from a site of incessant editing into a cradle of sustainable capability. On camera, depict Virgo with close intentional motions, folding a cloth, labeling a jar, writing a single sentence in a notebook. These images convey that their solitude is tactile, pragmatic, and quietly loving. Virgo's independence is a practice of care, not a withdrawal from warmth. Finally, remember that Virgo's gift is fixity, the ability to notice, tidy, and repair. Their solitude is a resource for the community because it yields dependable competence. If you are a Virgo, honor the parts of solitude that replenish and limit the parts that punish. If you love one, appreciate the small repairs they make and acknowledge the invisible labor. In that mutual recognition, solitude becomes an instrument of mutual flourishing rather than a wedge between people. Number 1. Aquarius, who is a lone wolf even when they are in a crowd. Aquarius doesn't just survive alone. They often prefer it because their allegiance is to thought, possibility, and the future rather than immediate emotional interchange. Aquarius is a thinker-first sign. Their affection tends to be idea-based, civic, and project-oriented. In social settings, they may appear detached because their attention frequently orients toward abstractions, systems, scenarios, and experiments. Alone, Aquarius builds models of alternative living, new educational designs, cooperative housing plans, or speculative prototypes for social change. This intellectual solitude is not a sign of coldness, but of orientation. Aquarius values concept over constant intimacy. Their loyalty often shows in practical ways, defending causes, mentoring protégés, or giving time to experiments that improve communal life. Their independence is therefore social in a paradoxical way. They think for the many even while working alone. Solitude gives them the cognitive space to envision architectures of the future, unfettered by immediate social pressures. Alone, Aquarius incubates ideas. They read widely, sketch prototypes, and test hypotheses in their notebooks. Their solitude is a workshop for the common good. What begins as a solitary thought might later become a community program. This is the humanitarian aspect of their solitude. Independence used to serve something larger than themselves. Many innovators, activists, and social entrepreneurs have Aquarian traits. Long periods of private thinking, followed by bursts of public contribution. There is a shadow side, emotional distance. Aquarius's preference for intellectual company can make them appear unavailable at times when human warmth is needed. They may underestimate the power of small emotional gestures because their priority is systemic thinking. This gap can create misinterpretation. Others may read them as aloof or uninterested, when in truth Aquarius is simply operating on a different bandwidth. Bridging that gap is a practical skill for Aquarius. Small, consistent acts of presence, 15-minute check-ins, scheduled listening sessions, or verbal summaries of what a project means for people, translate intellectual solitude into relational warmth. These micro-habits do not require sacrificing independence. They provide a clear channel for emotional currency that complements their visionary work. Aquarius's solitude often leads to inventions, literal or social. Consider the solitary inventor in a garage, or the activist who writes a paper alone and later rallies a movement. Their solitude incubates prototypes that, if shared, can scale. Aquarius's contribution is often speculative but with an ethical bent. They ask not just, how does this work, but for whom does it work, and how could it be more just? In intimate relationships, Aquarius offers loyalty that is principled rather than possessive. Their love may look like supporting a partner's autonomy, advocating for causes that matter to both, and offering space for mutual growth. They prefer partnerships that permit independent projects and respect the freedom to think publicly and act privately. Visually, Aquarius's solitude reads as wide angles and blueprint sketches, hands drawing diagrams, quiet nights with stacks of reading material, slow camera pans of a solitary desk lit by a single lamp. These images suggest constructive solitude rather than mere withdrawal. The narrative arc to show is the incubation, the moment of private ideation followed by a concrete act of public care. That transition demonstrates that Aquarius's loner reputation masks a civic imagination that can be widely generative. A final practice for Aquarius. Try the listening experiment. Commit to a period of focused listening where you resist offering solutions, simply absorbing the other's experience. This strengthens emotional muscles while preserving your intellectual center. For everyone else, see Aquarius's solitude as a resource for collective imagination. Their private work often contains seeds for shared futures. Appreciate their independence as an engine for community-scale thinking rather than a refusal of intimacy. Being alone does not mean being broken. Self-sufficiency is a cultivated practice, a set of habits that allow you to stand when help is not available. If solitude calls to you, start small. 15 minutes of quiet, a short walk, a tiny creative act. Over time, these appointments compound into a life that does not depend on constant presence. Remember, solitude and connection are not opposites, but companions. Practice both with intention and kindness. If you want a simple 30-day plan to practice solitude intentionally, comment "solitude plan" below, and I'll pin a template. Cultivate tiny rituals and honor small wins. Solitude, when practiced kindly, becomes a generous source of strength. Start where you are. A short walk, a page of writing, a cup of tea without your phone. Notice the difference after 1 week. If solitude feels overwhelming, seek professional support. Independence is a skill learned gradually. Above all, be gentle with yourself. The goal is not stoic withdrawal, but a balanced life where silence and social warmth feed each other.